Today we're going to explore a little bit about the earliest Gnostic writing. And I may be mispronouncing this, but this first Gnostic text is called Eunostus the Blessed. And as I said, this is believed to be the first Gnostic writing. And this is before the Gnostic writings began to reinterpret early Christian thought. And let me see here. It is a philosophical treatise from the late first or early second century, meaning that this writing may have been written about maybe 30 years after Jesus' death, which puts it in line with some of the early writings of the New Testament, maybe the Gospels or the Acts. But those early books of the New Testament, the earliest ones were written in the in the late first, early second century. And I don't recall which books those might have been. But I do know that Gnosticism eventually rose to become a rival of the early developing church. And it was the church that kind of pushed them out in a very not very nice way. So, and he writes that this much is enough, since it is impossible for anyone to dispute the nature of the words I have just spoken about the blessed, imperishable, true God. I know I didn't read the early parts of this, but I have just a small window of time to work with. So I picked up with my notes, and my notes concerning this is that the true divine presence, and that's what we talk about so much, is the divine presence, experiencing the divine presence, immersing ourselves into this. The true divine presence is the divine presence that is experienced. If you want to say the true God, then it would be the true God is the one that you experience. Because without experience, there is only speculation. And we know what speculation does, don't we? We know what speculation does. It's not truth, it is a fantasy, because those people who talk about the divine without having experienced the divine cannot speak of it passionately. They can only go by the words that are before them. And just to give you an example, and I use this reference in many of my comparisons with some of the writings that I am reading. And I always refer to Genesis. And this morning I was actually intelligent enough, because I don't do it so often, but this morning I was actually intelligent enough to ask, what does Genesis mean in the Hebrew and Aramaic language? Now, for us today, we look at Genesis as the beginning. But Genesis is not the beginning. Genesis means the emergence of.
Germation.
You could call it germation. But it is the emergence of. And that's what you could say is being referenced here when we talk about experiencing the divine presence. Genesis is the narration of such an experience. Any thoughts on that? Any thoughts, Beth?
Well, I just really like it when you do your research into what's the translation in Hebrew or Aramaic or Greek, because it just opens these doors of potentiality. And for me, it's like, well, yeah, it's like opening a door. It's like I thought I was going into a closet, but here it's a door into the outside, and it's such a vista, you know, open prairie, mountain range, whatever. It's just broadening, and it's like it could be anything. Potentiality is like unlimited.
Precisely.
So an emergence, and like I said, germination, because I pictured, remember when we had to grow little bean sprouts in science class? Remember that in our styrofoam cups or in our Dixie cups? And how excited we were when that little first bit of green came out of the dirt. And that just uh, means so much more, because there's been a whole cycle or two that has already transpired before that emergence. So it's not a beginning, it's just part of a cycle.
Exactly. This is why I say your God, the divine presence within you, because being a divine presence that only you can experience. And all doctrine can do is just provide a context to the experience. I experienced this. What does it mean? Well, doctrine can help you sort that out. But it often we read doctrine as the guide to the experience. And that's not its purpose. Its purpose is to give context to the experience, to help us understand the experience. And Sandy, what are your thoughts?
I guess I guess I've never actually put this to thought, but when you're speaking about Genesis and in the way it is, it's so contained. There's so much that isn't said that it almost makes what is said harder to understand, but harder to believe. And I with Beth, I think all sections or verses of the Bible should be compared with the Aramaic or the Hebrew interpretations, because so often it has been totally taken completely wrong, whether accidentally or intentionally. And when you hear it, that when these different languages are researched, you find that very often it doesn't say anything like it's ended up with. It's not like that at all. So I'm finding, because I have seen this in other areas, and I'm finding it extremely interesting and enlightening it just puts a whole different perspective, and I feel like a more accurate understanding of what is said. So I I it makes perfect sense that Genesis isn't it. I mean, that there's more before it, that it just didn't just be written down and it started from there. Makes perfect sense that it emerged from uh, another level, or um, I don't know if there ever is a first. You know what I mean? I mean, when you think about that, you think, okay, well, like you're starting from point A. Is it always in stone, that part A, or is there something before it? You know what I mean? Um, Good question. I don't know the answer, but anyway, um, that's how I felt. That's kind of my feelings about it.
Let's explore that a little bit. Now, I use Genesis as an example,
Mhm.
but you seem to have fixated on it. So maybe we'll explore that a little bit. And the way these spiritual writings are presented, Gnostic, Kabbalistic, Hermetic, it always comes from the point of beginning. Remember the analogy that one of our spirit teachers gave us about the storm. At what point does the storm begin? Where can we put our finger and say, yes, this is where the storm began? But we can't put our finger on that point until we recognize the storm. And then we call that point the beginning point. But it begins far earlier than that.
Mhm.
They call this the unmanifested.
Mhm.
I call it the potential.
Mhm.
And physics actually calls it the quantum realm, because the quantum realm is the realm of potential. It's all about probabilities. So there is no, and speaking of Gnostics, this is what they're implying when they say the absolute, when they say that the God of the Bible is the false God, because everybody points to that point and says this is where it began. And when we look at Genesis, Genesis opens with the Spirit of God moving across the waters. I think. I could be wrong. It sounds good anyway.
Sounds familiar.
But moving across the waters. So if Genesis is the book of emergence, and then it's about the divine presence within you emerging, rising up, moving from these subconscious or the unconscious into the conscious, moving from accidentally and calling it intuition, moving from there into
Mhm.
intentional living.
Mhm.
It's and the other thing about Genesis, and this is in the Hertog's Book of Knowledge, Keys of Enoch. It tells us that life is created top down. We are fixated on life beginning with the fetus, but life doesn't begin with the fetus. Life begins in the unmanifested, the realm of potential. It begins in, you could call it spirit, but spirit, we have to remember, spirit is not soul. Spirit is animation, inspiration, anything that causes you to become active. That is spirit.
Mhm.
So life is created top down. Consciousness, the divine presence, created the heaven first, and the heaven is the seat of the divine, the dwelling of the divine, which dwells within us. And from that formed Adam in the likeness of the divine. And from that formed, took mud and clay or dust and formed it around the soul. Because when the divine breathed into Adam and made Adam a living soul, well, then he formed from that around the living soul a body. So we move from, you could say, we move from the unmanifested potentiality into light, because the soul is light, and into crystallized light, or the body, each and it being an extension of the other. So, what are your thoughts with that, Sharon? Wow.
Oh gosh, I don't even know where to begin.
I'm on your side. I feel the same way.
Good. I'm glad it's not just me.
I'm always thinking, oh my God, it's going to call on me. And now what am I going to say? Come up with something. Think.
That's a good answer. How does it feel? Not what do you think about it? How do you feel about it? What does it evoke within you, that sensation, that emotion?
A little overwhelming, and I guess the opposite of, you said top down, and I guess we think bottom up. So that's a different, but that tends to kind of make sense to me though, top down, because that's where we're coming from. So that isn't that that makes sense to me completely. Um, I think if you look at Genesis, you could do years and years and years of talk about what it all means, and I don't know if we'd even scratch the surface, because it doesn't. I haven't read it in a long time, I have to admit, but I don't think I'm not sure how close it is to what we talk about just reading it, if it's even something that we would even put the two together, that, oh, that makes sense for that. I don't know. I said I haven't read it in a long time. Maybe I should read it again just to know where I'm coming from.
And that's just the first chapter.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just the first chapter. All this is being created. And you notice, well, nobody notices, I should say. Nobody notices that the body, the physical body, is not formed until the second chapter.
Well, and this is the other thing. Call me weird, but okay, so the spirit, the soul is taken down there, and then God takes some clay and makes a body. Okay, that just sounds ridiculous to me. I'm sorry. It just sounds ridiculous to me. I look at our human bodies, and they're not a hunk of clay, really. And I mean, they're very much more intricate and complex than something like that. So obviously, maybe that was a bad choice of words. But I don't know what that means. I don't know. I can't say I would read that and feel like that was me. You know what I mean, I can't think I would read that and think to myself, well, I just can't make the connection. Let me put it that way.
The whole idea, it's metaphor.
Okay.
It's a story.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's
the
all right.
whole idea
Okay.
is that from the intangible
Mhm.
comes the tangible.
Okay.
That's the whole idea. The pyramid, the triangle of the pyramid represents the primordial. That's it. The primordial, the the very beginning, so to speak. No, not the beginning. Wholeness. It represents wholeness, the process of wholeness. And then when these triangles kiss the square represents form, concrete, substance.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's all the dust means.
Okay.
And he says, dust of the earth. And it's at that point where physicality actually can be, you can say, begins.
Okay.
It's a story. It's about awakening. If we were reading a Hermetic text, it would be when Hermes, after traveling all day, got down, made himself comfortable, and began to meditate. And in that meditation, this light emerged and asked, "What is it, my child, that you would like?" And he asks to know the secrets. And then the light reforms itself into a dragon, which represents wisdom. And from there, the teaching begins. It's Mohammed in a cave after a long day tending to the herds and everything, meditating. And an angel appears, a light appears, and forms itself into an angel. It doesn't actually form, it's within the mind, within your internal reality. And this, as our spirit teacher told us, we reshape things into something we understand. We can't understand this light speaking to us, but we can understand a dragon speaking to us. We can understand an angel speaking to us. Or in Swedenborg's case, we can understand a person speaking to us because Swedenborg had the same experience. John had the same experience. Revelations. He's meditating, and this angel, this light appears. And this angel begins to give him revelations, begins to reveal to him. Emergence. It's the same thing. It's revelation of a different kind. And we all have it. I was speaking with someone just the other night, a Wednesday. I call a friend in Kansas City every other Wednesday. And sometimes he asks me these bizarre questions. And while we are speaking, he says, I've had some experiences. I said, cool. You've experienced the divine. Well, I don't know about that. I said, no, 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 no. The divine is not this grand experience like Genesis describes, or Hermes and his Poimander describes, or Muhammad describes. It's not always that. It's the little things. It's the subtleness. Genesis is about subtleness. Emergence is subtleness. Revelation is boom. But emergence, it's that seed that Beth was talking about that slowly emerges. It's not a grand event, but how did you feel emotionally?
Oh, excited?
Yes.
Delighted? It's like, look what I had a hand in doing. look what I had a hand in.
See, that's what experiencing the divine presence is mostly about. When we meditate, how often do we have these grand experiences? Not very. However, after the meditation, you always feel calm, relaxed, peaceful, tranquil. That's the divine presence. That's that harmony that moves through you and then radiates outward. That's the divine presence. So, what are your thoughts, Ken? I mean, if you're still thinking about it, that's fine. Just tell me. I won't press you.
Yeah, it's okay. I'll just tell you, it's short and sweet. All experience is good. Good experience, bad experience, they're all good. Yeah, obviously at the time it may not seem good. What's good about this? But they are, and that's why we're here and we do these things and stub our toe and go back on. But that's what I think. You know, the grand question is, what is this life all about? And it's about experience. So that's, why we're here. That's what I think. And I've thought about that a lot lately. It's a perspective thing, I think.
Yes, it
Here
is.
I'm starting to get going again now. The juice is starting to flow. But I think what I've been thinking about, here I go again. Actuarial tables. Most people don't even know what they are, but I do. And insurance companies use them because they want to know how long you're going to live. That's what you do. You look up the actuarial table and it will tell you how long you're going to live. And in my case, at my age, they said this is what the table says, 90 years old. But that's not to say that this is all good years. We have things we have to deal with. I have breakfast groups, and they're getting smaller. People are dying, and it gives you a different perspective on things. And so that's why I think all experience is good, and we've got to get something out of this, and blah blah blah. And here I go again. But you asked, and I think I've noticed in the last maybe 10 years how your perspective changes according to your age. I know when I was younger, and I'm kind of a loner anyhow, it never really bothered me to do things by myself. I'd get in the car and I'd drive out to Grand Canyon or something, Rocky Mountains, by myself, totally happy. And but I've noticed as I get older now, and my time is running out, and my time is getting short, and I know it. Look at the tables, but and I'm losing track of where I was. It's the difference between when your outlook when you're younger and your outlook when you're older. And I've never really looked at YouTube a lot, but there's something there that you might look up. It's called "It's Too Late." This old guy, he's in his 80s, wrote this essay about how you see things differently now and what you would have done what you would do now if you knew what you did. I'm losing track of what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is, how would your perspective be different if you knew when you were young what you know now? And all the things that you wanted to do, it's too late. It's a pretty pessimistic point that he's making, but I understand what he's saying because it's too late. But that's because you have a different outlook on life because you know so much more now. Now you know things, but you're not as physically capable of being able to carry it out as you were when you were younger, when you didn't know anything.
Mm-hmm.
And now you
Yeah.
do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, that's why I think about it. All experience is good. And here I go again. I can't help it, but I like spirit communication. And I was in this circle one time. I can't even remember where it was or who was leading it, but my mother came in from spirit. She was dead in the body. She came in and said, Kenny, she calls me Kenny. I try to get Ken, but it doesn't work. Kenny, you would not be the man you are today if you had not had the experiences that you've had. Well, that's true of all of us, but I've had some pretty traumatic ones. And I'd have to say, because of that, I know things that other people don't.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
We're winding down because we're getting closer to time to start wrapping things up. So I want to read this. And this is about experiencing the divine presence. Okay? This is how you recognize the divine presence within you. He is indeed of equal age with the one who is before him. But he is not equal to him in power, meaning that the presence you experience is likened to yourself. The life force that you encounter is similar to your life force, only the life force you encounter is a bit wiser than you. Hence, the term in Genesis, Adam was made in the image of God. Form him in our image. Our image. Not my image, but our image. So, Beth, what are your thoughts about today's conversation?
Oh, I enjoyed it and all the little branches that sprung out of it. I don't know. I've just been harping on this thought. When you're young and you're growing up and you see what the older people do, it's like, I can't wait till I can drive a car like my big brother, or I can't wait till I can smoke a pipe like my dad, or I can't wait. Well, I didn't do that as a little kid. It's like, I can't wait till I'm 80. And I still have that feeling. It's like, I couldn't wait. It's like, I'm going to know everything there is to know at 80, or once I reach my 80s. So I figure that's probably my transition time. It's like, I'm going to know, I can't wait till I'm old. It's like, forget all this stuff in between. And it's just different perspectives guide your life.
Yeah.
I still can't wait till I'm 80.
Yeah.
I'm only 13 years away now.
Yeah, when I consider that perspective, younger, older, I look at it now and yeah, I'm far wiser than I was in my younger days. But I look around at some of the other people that I know and I realize that in some instances, I'm far wiser than the older people. And that's probably only because I spend my time reading and contemplating and meditating and connecting because I'm on disability and I've got nothing else to do. So Sandy, what are your thoughts about today's conversation?
I just thought it was great. I really did. I thought it was great and a good place to start. And it just the conversation just brought out a million questions. It's some answers, but a million more questions, which is great. I think that's really good. And a re-evaluation of it. And yes, I would agree with you that I think when you're younger, you're just trying to get through everything. You're just trying to get through life. You're just trying to do whatever has to be done to get through the day. And then you reach this point. I don't know whether I was 50, I don't remember, but all of a sudden, boy, it's like the like the clouds parted and this incredible sense of knowledge and knowing and experience and mystery and all of it kind of comes together and you are moved over to a different place. You're literally looking at it from a different place. So I agree with you about that. I think um and you just can't get there till you get there. You can't get it when you're young. I mean, maybe some people do, but like I say, you're just too busy trying to get through the day. You don't have you don't have the energy or the wherewithal or what, or to even think about it, about knowledge, about real life, about your purpose, about all of that. So, there's a, you said it, Beth said about wanting to be old. I could feel like I certainly didn't have as a profound an experience as you did, Beth, but I can relate to that. Um, I found getting older to be very liberating, very liberating. So, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. So that's my take on it.
One of the things that I found whenever I come across something and I'm thinking, okay, this is not fitting. So I ask Copilot. And the first thing Copilot tells me, like with Genesis, the first thing Copilot says is that it's much more richer than the flattening out of the English language.
Hmm.
The English language seems to flatten out the potentially intended meanings of words. And this includes Latin, because I'm reading Augustine's On Christian Doctrine, which is Latin. And even in there, the English language has flattened that out. So, what are your thoughts, Sharon, of today's conversation?
Well, I'm not looking forward to being older, so just saying. That's not good for me, but no, I think it really was good. I wrote down a couple things to look up. Yeah, it's interesting that all of us at our ages are looking at Genesis at the beginning, right? Does that have something to say about that? Are we all at a beginning in our lives again, just starting over for something else? I don't know.
Well, I perceive Genesis as an awakening,
Okay, well, okay, yeah, like you said, a resurgence.
an emergence.
Emergence, yeah, emergence. So maybe it's good to stop in our ages and look at things again. Because they're probably be
Yeah,
different.
it's part of the process.
Part of the process, right? So,
Reflection is
Yes.
part of the process.
yes.
And aren't we all wanting to experience the divine presence?
Yes,
Mhm.
yeah.
And we come across these spiritual writings with all these rigid rituals and everything. And it's far more simpler than that. It's a state of mind. It's a frame of mind. That's all it is. You ready yourself for the experience. Meditation is just a pathway to that experience. Um, Exercise is a pathway to that experience. Sometimes we can multitask and we can have the experience while driving. Although it's not something I would recommend, because it might open up a path that we're not ready to go down.
True. True.
So, but I'm finding Genesis to be very useful to explain something, particularly with creating heaven before earth, meaning the intangible before the tangible. It speaks volumes right there. It speaks volumes right there. And from there, we go through all these days and creating and all this other stuff. But, these beasts and such that are created can easily be archetypes for personalities. Very easily. Jung does that very easily. The oxen. The oxen is someone, he's a workaholic. All they do is toil. It's a workaholic. Creepy crawly things across the earth and everything. Well, creepy crawly things, those are very good for, ooh, man, this person feels weird, slimy. Yeah. You ever use that term? They feel slimy. Yeah. Genesis can be wonderful. And then there's this fashioning Adam in our image and breathing into. It's like there's this extra step. Okay, we've got this. Now, how do we get it moving? Well, we breathe into it and make it a living soul. Key, living soul. Now, connect that with living God. And you have the answer to a plethora of questions.
Mhm. Mhm.
What are your thoughts of today's conversation, Ken?
Oh, very good.
So, well, I want to thank all of you for your input, your thoughts, your emotions, and everything. And I want to thank you for allowing me to share this with you.